What does it take to become a world-class snooker champion? Dukascopy TV spoke to some of the best snooker players in the world to find out.
I mean, ranking events are really hard to win. The tour's changed a lot this season, where we're up to about sort of 18 or 19. But previously we're used to playing with sort of 7 or 8, so it's really tough just to win one. Hopefully the success I've had will inspire more young players back home to try and get on the tour and hopefully win tournaments like I have. I think perhaps when I was younger, I think so. Obviously, I'm well established in the game now. I've won many titles. First off, I mean, there's always going to be that sort of question mark over an overseas player who's never really been heard of before. But myself and Ding Junhui have sort of really broken through that barrier now, and now some of the most successful players in the world are overseas players. There are a lot worse ones out there for a lot of the other players. So when they picked that one, I thought, we'll stick with that. My goals are obviously to be as high as I possibly can. The thing is, because we're on a prize money ranking list, and the World Championships has got a lot of prize money in it, you pretty much have to be world champion to get to number one. So hopefully it can be a target of mine this season. If I can win the world title, then hopefully get back to number one. It makes it a little bit easier with being on the colours, because the yellow is on the right hand side of the table, which is easy to pot for a left-hander, but it's just a marginal difference, so there's no real advantage or disadvantage being left or right-handed. I first started kind of playing when I was about 11 or 12, but that's actually quite old compared to some of the players who start playing in China and in the UK. Usually they're sort of playing by sort of 7 or 8. I guess I was a little bit of a late starter and blossomed later than some of the others. Being an overseas player, a lot harder to get established and to base yourself in another country, leave your friends and family behind. It took a few years for me to get used to that. The prize money is increasing all the time. I think it's like nearly doubled over the last sort of 5 years compared to what it used to be. So, and it's only ever increasing. So it's definitely a great sport to get involved in if you're a kid and that. And the prize money is starting to taper down into the lower ranks as well, to help people sort of get through on the way up. To help cover all the expenses and everything like that, because that's the main thing is that when you get onto the tour, you want to be able to cover your expenses and all that sort of stuff and not show a loss. So
my hero when I was growing up was Alex Higgins, and when I saw him on TV first, he was very exciting, very charismatic. Of course, he was from Ireland as well, which also helped. But when he won the World Championship in 1982, I was just about 13 years of age, and from that moment on, I wanted to be a snooker player. There was a couple of snooker clubs in my village at the time, so it was quite easy access to play snooker. But watching that World Championship, with him winning it and picking up the baby, the trophy, crying his eyes out, it was an iconic moment in our sport, and I think it inspired a lot of lads. It's a very difficult sport because you're not only hitting one ball like in other sports, you're hitting one ball against another ball, and that's where the difficulty lies. So it's because when your opponent is at the table, there's nothing you can do. It's not like in soccer where you can tackle your opponent, or in tennis when you can hit back a forehand or a backhand. Absolutely, I think it's a very psychological game. Snooker, it's a game of strategy as well as skill, but also you have to be very strong mentally, because you have to concentrate even when your opponent's at the table. You have to concentrate, keep your focus, keep your concentration, because when you do get a chance, you have to be ready. To be a member of a club, it doesn't cost that much to play. Like in a club, it can cost anywhere between £5 or £6 or £10 an hour. That's not expensive when you consider other sports of the expense they take. Being in the top 16 for 16 years or stuff like that. So I was very, very lucky. Winning the World Championship as well gave me a sort of platform to build, a sort of a career as well.
I suppose I put a lot of pressure on myself when I come to tournaments, because I always go to tournaments trying my best and believing I can win the tournament. So if I'm not performing to how I'd like to, and then obviously I'll put a lot of pressure on myself. So with the number one position, a little bit of pressure, but as I say, a lot of the pressure is self-taught really. Obviously, since I've started winning tournaments, I believe in myself that I can go on and win other tournaments now. So once you've done it once, you know that you can win these tournaments, so you put a lot more pressure on yourself going to every other tournament in the future. If you do win and you're at the top of the game, and then obviously it is a good career and like you can earn a good living out of it. If you're at the bottom of the scale, obviously it's quite difficult, but that's where we all started at one point.
I can afford to obviously fly every now and then business class, but for the young lads coming on, you've got to have 15, 20 grand just to get around the place, get around the world. So it is tough, but it is what it is. You got to do it, and you got to travel around the world to play in these tournaments. So people that moan about it, it's maybe a bit sort of unfair, stupid, or whatever way you want to call it, but you've got to do it to obviously get the reward. When I won the World Amateur the following year, I was 7-1 up on Marco Fu, and he come back and beat me. That's one that always sticks out and hurts still. Yeah, it's tough when you get obviously a few frames down. It's hard to do another 20 years to pick up again. But yeah, it's tough. You got to get right people behind. You got to get a good coach, and you got to practice hard. You sort of, no one gives it to you on a plate. You've got to work hard, and that's the key.